Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 23 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 35 today for the Belgian Grand Prix in Season 2. If you guys did miss the previous one at the Italian Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one, because we had a shock new race winner for this season, and it wasn't a new winner entirely in Formula 1, but it was a very unfamiliar name and a very shock one, because Alpine came out of nowhere and Pierre Gasly won his second Italian Grand Prix ever to take victory around Monza. He now sits inside the top 10, and after such a convincing race where he was right up there with Leclerc the entire time, question marks now of, are Alpine a bit of a dark horse and a spanner in the work for the rest of us? You know, there's still a constructors fight going on with ourselves, Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes, and of course we're locked into this battle with Lando Norris, the nearest man to us in the championship. But for us, the podium was very solid, and Red Bull had one race to forget last time out. Norris P16, Verstappen P11, neither of them scored points. It was a big setback after they were building a little bit of momentum, I guess you could say. You know, Norris obviously got the second place in Baku, which I thought may have turned into more going forward at a crucial point. You know, especially whilst we had the DNF at Silverstone, he picked up a top 5 position. We had a very forgetful race in Baku, and that's when he got the podium. So I was ready for him just to continue that and, you know, worryingly maybe get a lead and a commanding lead in the championship. But things have swung back our way with a strong performance at Monza, and we are finally going to get those next two downforce upgrades on the car, on the front and rear. Of course, we had to repurchase them, so there was no way they were going to fail, like quite literally, so they're always going to come in. So that's pretty decent. We're actually looking pretty good on the aero side of things. There's actually chassis. We've actually, you know, quietly fallen away a little bit. We're in the bottom half for chassis, and even on the engine side, we're not the best engine on the grid, to my surprise. Red Bull, ironically, are actually ahead of us, and Aston Martin have the best engine on the grid. Once again, remember, you may remember at the end of Season 1, they also ended up with the best engine on the grid. So some very similar patterns to Season 2, also along with the general upgrading the AI. It seems like it takes them so long to actually get some momentum up and wind up all these upgrades and invest in them, and only now are we seeing some rapid upgrading for the teams around us. And it means, although things are very tight, technically we're now the 4th best team on the grid going into Spa. Aston Martin and Red Bull lead the way, Ferrari 3rd just ahead of us, and they're not too far behind us are, well, Haas are pretty much on top of us. Then we've got Alpine and McLaren as well, so it's going to be a very fraught competition. But I think the podium at Monza was something to take solace by. Even though things are looking like, you know, we might have more of a challenge, the car is still in a pretty good place. Now we've maybe got some work to do on the chassis side, because now we've bumped up the aero and the engine. Well, do we try and keep up pace with Aston Martin or Red Bull? I'm not too sure. Maybe we need to look at some fuel upgrades rather than pure engine power, because we don't want another Baku situation where we come to a race weekend where the engine power is way too much for the rest of the car to handle. But at the same time, through all of that, we also have durability to worry about in terms of the actual wear and tear of our components, because we've now got to a point where I don't see any way where we don't take a set of engine penalties here for the Belgian Grand Prix. I think we're going to have to take at least one for the internal combustion engine, but also some of these other components are near enough getting to, you know, over 50%. So if we're taking, you know, one or two penalties, we may as well take a whole row. We know Spa is a circuit where you can overtake at, especially on the game as well, even more so than real life. So I think it makes sense to take a whole column of penalties, which will relegate us to the back of the grid for Sunday's Grand Prix, but it leaves the Saturday sprint open, of course, because Spa is a sprint race weekend on this year's game. So we're here on Friday in qualifying, knowing we're going to be at the back of the grid on Sunday. So it kind of feels like, what's the point of trying? But we do have a sprint race to try and maybe get some points to maybe negate points we lose on Sunday, if it makes sense. You know, if we can't get up to a podium, let's say, on Sunday, if we can bag a sprint win or a sprint top 3, that might just make up for that points difference of not making up the positions on Sunday. So there is some point to try our hardest to qualify as high as we can, at least for Saturday's sprint. And the first lap in Q1, not so great, but the second one completely now dialed in a bit more, and we're right up there in P3, only 1.5 tenths off Lando Norris, our rival in the championship. Leclerc's up there as well, Verstappen, and you can see, you know, some other kind of other teams in the top 10 frame, potentially Aston Martin, McLaren, Alpine, I'm assuming as well. Hopefully Ricciardo can join us in the top 10 and we can make it in as well. As the clouds do descend, there is a little bit of rain maybe around the circuit, but for now it's staying away from the track. Spa is so large, obviously, you never know where the weather system's going to pop out at, but this flying lap in Q2 I thought was going to be pretty damn solid as we go across the line. It's going to be P3, but we're so far off in terms of the actual lap time to Verstappen. We got ahead of Alonso and Norris, but Verstappen in a real big zone there, 2.5 tenths ahead of Sainz, and then there's another 3 tenths then to Albon, and then 1 tenth to me. So maybe others looking even quicker. Ricciardo and myself have made it through, both Ferraris in, 1 Alpine of Gasly, once again showing that Gasly's really doing the job of dragging that Alpine maybe further up than it actually should be versus his teammate Esteban Ocon. But we're definitely locked into a fight then with the Red Bulls, it would seem, to try and get on pole position. Verstappen was quick in Q2, Norris Q1. Which one of them will be up there? Verstappen sets an early purple sector, but you're going to see this lap for us. We hook it up, and it felt so planted, and it just felt responsive, to be honest, in terms of when I was trying to accelerate, get the nose turned in, and we're going to hook up a pretty damn decent second sector, dancing the car around that left-hander. And now into the last sector, flown by Blanchimont into the bus stop chicane. Verstappen fastest of all at the moment, tight as we want through the left-hander, get on power early, DRS open, and to the line, and it's going to be provisional pole position, and we're going to hold that. Because it's a sprint weekend, there's not enough tyre compounds. It also started raining, so no one else went for a second flying lap. So it was pretty much a one-shot in that Q3, and we're 3 tenths ahead of Lando Norris to be on pole position for Saturday's sprint. It's kind of frustrating now that we're going to be at the back of the grid for Sunday, looking at the pace we had there, but I think we were just in flow state in that Q3, really just dialed it in at the perfect time. And also, like I said, because it was basically a one shot, that was it, and others were making mistakes, not going as quick as they maybe did in Q2, and so we're on the front row, surprise surprise, alongside Lando Norris, our championship rival. Through all the kind of chaos that's happened this season, the reason why we're top 2 in the championship is because we're always just there and consistently trying to aim for the highest positions. You got to say, from pole position for this sprint, I think we've got to be aiming for the maximum 8 points today to try and really negate any points we lose out on Sunday. So here we go then, from 5 red lights. The sprint at Spa is underway, and myself and Lando on the front row have chosen mediums. It's a good start for me. It's a bit of a slow one for him as Verstappen is up into second place. Sainz down the inside. The soft tyre runners have jumped Lando Norris. We've just stayed ahead somehow, but now Verstappen and Sainz have a run at us. They're going to be side by side as we go towards ROUGE with defensive, but there's a bit of contact and massive bad luck. Oh my god, our race is over in an instant. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oh, Verstappen, great start off the 5 red lights on the softs, as you would imagine. Does get the jump on Lando, to be fair. That's the advantage of choosing softs early on. Later in the sprint, maybe the mediums would have come back to us, but both Verstappen and Sainz committed here, and oh my god. We just get... Verstappen's about to get pinched in there, and he's got nowhere to go, but he stays committed. There you can see basically that pincer movement from myself and Sainz onto Verstappen, but I was unaware of how close they were. I was holding my inside line. Sainz, to be fair to him, he could have maybe left a bit more room on his inside to not pinch Verstappen in, but it is basically a racing incident because all 3 of us were so committed. I was kind of unaware of what was happening, and all of a sudden I was sideways, crashing into Verstappen, crashing to Sainz, and the car was going so quickly, it just slid all the way left to the wall, and that's it. That's our sprint over. What a waste. What a waste of a pole position. What a waste of Friday qualifying to get that pole, because now, well, we knew we were going to be last place anyway on Sunday, but now we're definitely last place because we finished the sprint in last. Verstappen went on to win that sprint race. Somehow, I want to point this out, Verstappen, Sainz and Lando all had damaged front wings, and yet the simulation for the rest of the sprint said they did not make a pit stop, and Gasly just overtook them for second, which is still in itself a pretty great result for the Frenchman. Once once again showing how strong him and Alpine are, but it's a little bit sus that Verstappen, Sainz and Lando all came away with that, with the top 6 finish. Verstappen wins it. They definitely, you know, if we'd watched that normally, like a replay, they would have had to have hit for that massive damage that all 3 of them had. So a little bit, you know, feel a little bit hard done by the rest of the simulation of the sprint. I mean, hard done by the crash anyway. I thought I was doing all I could to go defensive to the left, and I was assuming Verstappen would have just backed out of it, Sainz as well, but they, all 2 of them, stayed committed to it, as did I. Obviously, being the race leader, I would be the one who's committed, because I feel like I've got the right of way, and it's ended up me being the biggest loser out of that. So I mean, there we go. I mean, it didn't matter in the end in terms of where we finished the sprint, because we're always going to be at the back of the grid, but it's 8 points we've lost out on, which is what I'm really annoyed by, but it is what it is. We're now going to have to, well, do the job we're going to have to do anyway and recover from P22. Let's go to the grid for the full Belgian Grand Prix.
Welcome to this visit to the Ardennes countryside. Spa-Francorchamps hosted its first Grand Prix back in 1925, and this historic track is loved by drivers and fans alike, and us here in the commentary box too. So it's a warm welcome from the Belgian Grand Prix. Spa-Francorchamps then, a historic 19-corner circuit with a lap distance of 4.35 miles. There's over 100 metres of elevation change here, and with long stretches of the lap spent flat out, a good top speed will be vital for success. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position, with Pierre Gasly alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Norris, Sainz, Albon, Russell, Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso, Hamilton, Bottas, Ocon, Liam Lawson, Oscar Piastri, Perez, Hulkenberg, Joe, Tsunoda, Magnussen, Stroll, Sargent, and the owner-driver rounds off the grid. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. Anthony Davidson also joins me in the commentary box today. They've been involved in a number of costly incidents lately. That's got to affect their mindset going into this race.
Certainly confidence is an important factor. And every time you're involved in an incident, it's not just the car you damage, but that confidence as well. But all the top racing drivers are able to tune that out when the race gets underway and focus on the job at hand.
Right, well, here we go then for the Belgian Grand Prix proper, the last question mark challenge. It was always going to be this way anyway with the engine penalties we took this race weekend, but ironically, we would have had this situation anyway because of that sprint race, but that's behind us now. It's in the past. Lando, our nearest rivals, gained a little bit on us. I think he's now 4 points behind us in the championship, so he's got a good chance obviously to maybe bridge those 4 points depending on how we go. You know, he's in the top 6, so he's got a better chance of finishing higher today, but let's just hope this car has the pace. I mean, I can't even tell you what it will be like because we didn't even make it past ROUGE in the sprint, so I really don't know what the race pace is going to be like, but we're taking some inspiration from what happened in the sprint, and we've chosen to start on the soft compound tyre to give us the best go at the race start as we go to lights out. And we're underway for the Belgian Grand Prix. A lot of us, though, have chosen the soft, so I'm not really in a unique situation here, but this maybe just helps my cause because you saw in the sprint how quick Verstappen and Sainz were on the softs versus the mediums, and even though there will be a bit of more tyre wear earlier on, I'm hoping that we can just try and make up positions first and foremost before we hit that tyre wear. But difficulties as we go through ROUGE up the up Radion to the Kemmel Straight as we only just narrowly overtake Lance Stroll. Had to back out of making a move on Magnussen, so not insane progress. I was hoping for maybe a bit more as we now try and send it on Magnussen, but again, just not feeling like I can get down the inside there of Magnussen. We had this in Baku, to be fair. I think more so than previous F1 games. I think on this year's game, it genuinely is a bit more of a challenge to actually cut through traffic and get back through from the back of the grid at the start of a race. You know, the AI are a little bit smarter about trying to block you. You know, damage feels a little bit more sensitive, so there's just that wariness and carefulness that we're having to do. And, you know, here, like, I'm going wide. Magnussen's giving me a good fight to the inside, so we've only just about got up to P19 halfway through lap 1. We'll close off on Tsunoda, having to lift off through Blanchimont as Tsunoda's so slow through there, and he actually goes and makes a move on his own, not wanting to get overtaken by us. Tsunoda goes for the double pass on Joe and also his own teammate Sergio Perez. We have to pick off the Sauber, but still haven't got Yuki in P16 there. Perez instead will be the AlphaTauri we first of all overtake into turn 1. This is a bit more like it, catching some of them napping a little bit in the train as we get up to P17. So if we keep going at this rate, I think we'll be okay. Lap 1 was a little bit concerning, but now I think we're getting into a groove a little bit. You've got to remember, this is literally our only second ever racing lap around this entire circuit after the sprint shenanigans as we power past Tsunoda with battery aided and hopefully get to the next corner. We're going to dart to the apex to squeeze him out and get into P16 and then set our sights on our old teammate Oscar Piastri down in P15. But right now Verstappen leads the way, Leclerc second, Norris third, Gasly down to fourth. He was on the front row, remember, following the sprint, so the Frenchman's not had the best start and has been swallowed up by the Ferrari and the other Red Bull, as we now have a great run on Piastri in the last sector as we go to the inside. Little lift off needed just to make sure we get to the apex and don't understeer into Piastri. Seems like some of these AI are lifting off there as Alonso blocks us a little into the bus stop chicane and is actually going to allow Piastri to come back at us on the outside. I actually went a bit deep into the corner myself, but Alonso was so slow on his turn-in that we almost careered into the back of him, and so we had to take avoiding action. So Piastri's got back passes. Our old teammate, our old pal, giving us a little bit of stress as he squeezes us to the right-hand side, nearly puts us in the wall. We stay committed up the hill and finally get that overtake to P15, although that McLaren now is going to have DRS. We do not have it on Alonso, so the McLaren actually may come back. He goes to the inside. We're going to have to try and outbrake him, and I think now finally we can say we've overtaken Oscar and we can set our sights on Fernando Alonso, another man who also had some engine penalties, not as many as me, but that's why he's down the order here in P14 whilst his teammate is in the top 5. Alonso, we're going to catch him a little bit unawares now. I think he's going as slow as he was on the previous lap when I nearly hit him, basically, so he needs to really buck up a little bit through that corner as we just get him very, very easily up into P14 as we've got yellow flags behind. So I think someone is having a bit of an engine issue or something or other, because the yellow flags into turn 1. As they continue on, I think someone's about to retire off the exit of turn 1 as we have a look at Nico Hulkenberg in the Sauber. It's Tsunoda out of this Grand Prix then with an engine issue. I'm sure that is probably as we go for the move on the German on the left-hand side, and we get a beautiful little slipstream on Liam Lawson, so much so that we almost bottom out a little bit and we actually go for the double pass on Lawson. How about that? That was very satisfying. That was needed, actually. That was some good progress. Up to P12 now as we watch lap 6. Verstappen still leading the way. Norris up to second place. Remember, Leclerc was in second, but now Norris has made it a 1-2 for Red Bull. But will the Ferrari come back at him? Gasly not too far behind, and also Albon as well. So this could be a very interesting four-way fight. And all the while, Verstappen looking more and more comfortable in this race, dominating this one as his teammate now is being overtaken by the Ferrari and also maybe the Alpine. It's 3 wide at the end of the Kemmel Straight. Leclerc through to second place, Gasly on the inside, and is going to get the move on Lando as well. So Lando down from P2 to P4. Pierre back in a podium contention, maybe with Alpine, just showing that maybe Monza was not a one-off fluke, and maybe he is just dragging that Alpine with some absurd form as of late into places it shouldn't be at the moment. Doing very well indeed, but all the while, like I said, Verstappen's looking ominously like he's got this tucked away, unless something's going to happen in the second stint. Maybe tyre wear might be a big factor here. For me, certainly, these soft tyres are feeling a little bit second-hand already as we are catching Bottas, but I don't think we can go much longer. The strategy was soft to medium, but I think I have to call this. I want to go on the hards. I don't want to go till lap 9. I think we just don't have enough pace. We're not going to catch Ocon in this stint. And if we're not going to do that, I may as well bail and go on to an undercut and go to the hard tyres. So, yeah, there's been so many times, obviously, on this game where this My Team car just seems to do so much better on the hards versus the medium tyres. And with the level of tyre wear I was facing on these softs, I thought, you know what, it's worked out for us a little bit at the start of this race, but let's bail out, let's go to the hards, get that consistent tyre on. Maybe others will go to mediums, but let's just trust in this car. What it's done so far this season on the hards has been very, very good. Remember Canada, how well we did with hards around Montreal. So we're strapping on the white set. We're down to what is last place right now in this Grand Prix. Sonoda's out, P21. But now we've got acres of clean space and probably about, 2-3 laps of undercut to come. So hopefully we're going to be ahead of Ocon once he makes his pit stop. But we need to try and slice past Lawson for the second time in this race, making it very awkward for me. The Golf Williams there in P21 through the corner with no name on the left-hander as we go to the end of lap 9. Now people into the pits. This was the scheduled pit stop for a lot of the soft tyre runners into turn 1. Look at the top left. Ocon's behind us, and he's just there on the right. So we do get ahead of Esteban Ocon by about 1 second, and we were about 1.5 behind him, remember. So we've pretty much got about a 2-second undercut there, but it won't matter too much because Ocon really fires up those mediums as we go for the move on Sargent on the outside of Blanchimont. Real commitment needed to get past the Haas and put a car between ourselves and Ocon because he's actually closed up that 1 second gap already. So the Alpine on mediums looking a bit quicker than myself on hards right now. But of course, it takes a couple of laps for the hards to rubber in for us to really feel the groove. And there's still some more positions to maybe get in this race. We might even undercut and overtake our own teammate here. What an insane undercut this has been at Spa. Even Ocon's got him. Ocon has jumped our teammate as well. We're up to P9 ahead of Ricciardo, ahead of Hamilton and Russell, I think. So we've both jumped both Mercedes cars as Gasly has been overtaken by Sainz, just showing the undercut's massive because Sainz was nowhere near Gasly and Leclerc, and now he's found himself ahead of the Frenchman. Leclerc, meanwhile, has just been overtaken by Verstappen. I think Leclerc pit earlier. Verstappen's come in later and had to regain the lead effectively, but that Red Bull in the hands of him is looking pretty damn strong as we go defensive on the Alpine. Ocon so quick in a straight line, but Ricciardo is going to fly through, and it's going to be a smash and grab for Rick Bobby to get up into P8. A little bit assisted by us with the way we defended that to the inside. Just took Ocon a little bit wide there. I was really hoping Ricciardo would do exactly what he did just then and got up into P8, but my God, that Alpine is actually rapid in a straight line. It's a little bit worrying as Ricciardo is on the medium, so through Pouon, very, very quick. And I'm sensing that he's just the quicker car on the mediums right now. He's the quicker car, and I want to play the team game. I don't want to hold him up too much. We go a little bit too wide letting him through here, so we have to go very defensive on Ocon. Sorry, Esteban, as we push him wide a little bit, and he gets jumped by Hamilton. But yeah, Ricciardo ahead of us now as Verstappen is still fighting Leclerc. Fair play to Leclerc for trying his best. He's on the mediums, to be fair, so the Ferrari should have a bit more pace right now, but Verstappen holding on with the hards, and he will get into P1 eventually later into this race. Lap 13 is everyone's made their pit stops now, and we're watching Alexander Albon fly through Carlos Sainz. Sainz got a great jump on some people with an undercut earlier, but now he's been overtaken by Norris, that man right ahead of Albon, and now he's been overtaken by Albon, but Lando has an issue. He's cut the corner. There's smoke coming out the back of his car, and it's going to be an absolute disaster for the Brit. Our championship rival is retiring from this race with an engine failure. That is massive for us. We're sitting in P7, and now that Lando's out, really, P7, well, P6 actually, sorry, is very, very decent for us, really. I'm not really now too annoyed we can't be up here fighting with these guys because Leclerc is now going for the move for the lead of the race. The Ferrari on the inside, the Red Bull on the left, and Verstappen just doesn't have the grip mid-corner to keep that, and Leclerc is into the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix. But look at that, they're all nose to tail. It's a four-way fight between Leclerc, Verstappen, Gasly, Albon. on. This is going to be a very tense ending as Verstappen's going to come back through with DRS. He's on the grass. He dips a tyre onto the grass. This is exceptional stuff here with the AI. Gasly now goes for the move on Leclerc. The two of them are side by side, and Albon is going to creep in to maybe make a move himself as these two slow each other up. Albon has overtaken Gasly now as we cut on to the end of lap 21. Albon flies through past Leclerc. I think Leclerc's mediums are going off a little bit. Albon is on the hards, just like Max Verstappen, so they're going to be on equal footing, and it definitely seems like the mediums have not stayed true as the Ferrari loses a bit of pace, and Albon is in the driving seat as we go on to the last lap of the Grand Prix. For us, we've just sat behind Ricciardo. We've even lost some time to Ricciardo, 2.3, so we're just accepting the P6, which is massive, versus Norris, who is DNF. But up at the sharp end, it's all to play for still. Albon chasing after Verstappen. Verstappen is harvesting battery into the bus stop chicane. It's a little bit wide. Albon's going for it. The move on the outside. The Aston Martin Honda puts the power down. And Albon. Oh my God. What a move. What a last corner. What a last lap. Alexander Albon wins the Belgian Grand Prix for Aston Martin at the death. Verstappen was harvesting. You saw his rain light on. That may have been the difference there. Albon with all the battery to deploy off the last bend. What a win.
A difficult race then on one of the all-time classic circuits, but they persevered to take the win here today. What do you think it was today, Ants, that gave them the edge over the competition?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
It's time to present the top drivers with their trophies for today's Grand Prix. And there are a lot of people in the paddock very happy with this result. It's Aston Martin on the top step.
It's a big win for Alexander Albon. That is awesome. That was what a way to win it into the last chicane, and played the tactical game. Clearly saved up enough battery. Verstappen had not, because he was harvesting into the last corner and then went a little bit deep as well. And so Albon will be on the top step. Verstappen second place though, which is still pretty decent actually considering the season he's had so far. It's still not a perfect weekend for Red Bull. They've lost the win there, and Lando had a DNF, so our championship rival, that's big for us. That the fight for the podium really is away from the championship fight, because for me it's 8 points gained on Lando 0. Obviously he did gain a bit of a bit on us in the sprint, but we've now gained it back basically, and eroded the gap he kind of bridged in the sprint race, as it were. Ricciardo pretty damn solid on the mediums. He just had more pace than me. The hards were the right call for me, but that meant I just didn't have enough pace compared to Ricciardo. But it's all good. 11 points ahead of Lando Norris. But to be fair, silently, Leclerc's podium has actually brought him very close to us. He's only 5 points off Lando Norris. Is Leclerc going to make this a three-way championship fight with myself and Lando? If he continues this consistency, the podium at Monza, the podium here, I think he could be on to one. And Ferrari, second place in the Constructors, looking very decent, just 5 points ahead of Red Bull, all still to play for in both championships. Things are getting interesting, and I think all things considered, we've made the most of the situation here at Belgium. Guys, if you have enjoyed that though, be sure to hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.